Okay, we are live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back for our series that we're doing with Kim. Kim D Heye, RIO for
Hello.
Life. Here she is. Say hello, Kim.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. All right. Well, yesterday we talked a little bit. Well, we talked a lot. We got a lot in that amount of time that we talked yesterday, which was really cool. Um, we talked about your parents, about your lineage back to Libberton, Scotland, which is very cool. Um, you were born in 1965. You have moved a bit. Your parents did get divorced when you were 2 years old, and I think that's something that we're going to delve a little bit further into today. Is just talking about and introducing your father, James Kenneth Libberton, and he went by Jim,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And so we're going to talk a little bit more about Jim. So, Kim, you want to introduce Jim to us? Like, how about a little bit of when he was a boy to a teenager? Can you tell us a little bit about his childhood?
There's a lot of different stories, and I will probably get some of it wrong. My daughter was much better at listening to a lot of it. Um, he grew up in Illinois and in rural Missouri. I know a lot of it was farming. Um, he always enjoyed reading. I think there was a lot of a tumultuous relationship with his dad. I'm pretty sure they butted heads quite a bit. He was the second oldest of 8 children, with only one girl that I believe was second to the last. My mother is second oldest of 8 children, and there's 2 boys at the end. So kind of neat dynamics for both their placement in their own families.
So they both are part of 8 children.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot that he ever really talked about with me about that part of his life, other than he worked and I don't know.
When he was young, like
Yeah,
he
he
started.
always working, doing things. I'm not sure the age. I believe it was in his late, early teens. He talked about being a dishwasher and told me one of the best jobs you can ever have is a dishwasher in a restaurant because you will know everything that happens everywhere within the
Right.
business. And everybody leaves you alone. You just sit, listen to your music, and wash dishes. And I learned later as an adult that is absolutely true. It is one of the best jobs. And yeah, um, but he taught me things like that about, and he relayed experiences of him in different ways, short little stories and things.
Like things that he had learned along the way, maybe.
Various stuff. I am lovingly called Jim Jr. I am the closest in personality to my father, and I am very proud of that. I'm a lot different, but at the same time, yeah, no, it's the DNA is strong in me. I can sit and talk forever, and people could walk in and out of the room, and I won't care, and neither did
Yeah.
he. But he had obsessions with time. He would if you walked into a room with me, he would look at various clocks and pick one and time how long it would take to make you angry or cry. And that's it, just to see how long it would take. And
Okay.
I knew
So,
what he was doing, but unless I tell them, they're not going to know.
well, okay. Right. So he was a bit malicious. He liked to
He
play on
liked to
your
set
feelings.
up a whole
a whole narcissistic dynamic. It sounds like
And
an
then
I thing.
pull the card at the bottom and let it all fall on him and see what happens, just because.
Let's
But
see when.
but it's kind of fun, and he poked bears, and it's hard for me. I mean, it's terrible, but it's a lot of things I love about my dad.
Well, can you recall what age you started to feel like, whoa, that wasn't okay, or whoa, that didn't make me feel very good? Can you recall when you started noticing that those were like little personal digs?
It started with, I was about, let's see, I'd had to be 9 years old. I had my brother Jason. Can't remember, was one of my younger siblings, and Dad he kind of set the whole stage. There was clothes in the dryer to be folded, clothes in the washer, and then a diaper container filled with dirty diapers, a dirty diaper in the toilet, and then just a random dirty diaper sitting in the hallway, just to see what I do.
So, hold on. So there's the laundry is there being done, or in the process of being done, correct?
Diapers.
And then now is it just regular clothes, and then next to that
diapers.
There's dirty diapers?
No, just
so
diapers.
There's nothing in the laundry
except diapers.
Just puts dirty diapers.
No, clean.
Inside.
They're in the right process. Like there's dry ones to be folded, wet ones to be switched, dirty ones in a full container, a dirty diaper in the toilet, and then the random diaper, like someone just changed real quick and the kid ran off. There's no judgment
so
on
we're
it.
talking about cloth diapers.
Yeah,
back
cloth
in the
diapers.
Day of cloth diapers when people, okay.
And so that is the stage I didn't know I was walking into. I just picked up the diaper thinking, oh, kid ran off, whatever. Open the toilet. Great. There's a diaper. And it's to see what I'm going to do and if I complete the whole thing or not. But no real judgment, just an observation of it that I would be made aware of after the fact because he'd tell me what I did and where I stopped. And so it was maddening. That was
so
when
it was
first
constantly
realized.
a setup, essentially.
You
to
didn't
see
know
how you were going to handle each step.
Yep.
So
whether I'd complain,
right?
Didn't matter what.
Throw an obstacle in your way unexpectedly.
Yes.
And see what you would do, and then if you didn't do anything with that one, there was another one waiting for you. Is that right?
Yes.
And so that would just be consistent.
Then remember, you got to put the clothes out of the dryer, fold them, but you got to come back to take the next ones out and, finish the whole cycle.
Right.
So beginning to end, that's probably about an hour and a half long cycle?
Yes.
To complete.
Right.
For a child.
And so you would go away, and while you were gone, he would throw another obstacle in the way.
Oh, no, it was all set up.
Already.
And then you just walk in and see the diaper on the ground, and it just all set up in advance. And he would do things for fun. And it.
So when did you realize, Kim, that those things were setups? Because, I mean...
when he told me. He would tell me where I went wrong, or whether I folded them wrong, or what my timing was, or I could have done it better. And so he would tell me. I would get debriefed out of nowhere on how I did on that performance that I didn't know I was in.
Right, that you didn't know it was a test, right?
No.
You didn't know that there was a...
I guess I always felt like I was under a microscope and not knowing why.
Walking on eggshells.
Because you don't know. And then, like I said, my reality is already twisted in so many ways that, like I said, by the time I'm 10 years old, I don't really know who to trust or what to believe. I've been tied to a chair. I've had all these experiences, and then I've got this at home. And I'm...
Okay, go ahead.
And I don't know why my dad is the way he was. My dad's been dead for a few years. I was with him I moved out there for 4 months and got a midnight job at McDonald's and took care of him and was with him every day those 4 months until he died. And so he became a kinder, gentler Jim way later, but always had this thing about him. Um, but going back to that younger time, one of my jobs was to edge the sidewalk in the front yard. My younger brother had the backyard, and I had the front yard. And I got paid 10 cents a foot, but it had to be measured. Each had to be 1 inch by 1 inch. And so there were times I might have only gotten paid for 3 feet of it. And the strong memory about that is I have a tithing slip for 3 cents. And it's because of one of those jobs where I only got 3 feet paid for the whole front yard. And so it's a real strong memory and connection. But I don't know. I never really thought it was wrong.
Well, because that's what you were given, right? And back in the time, we didn't ask questions. There were no rights. We didn't have any right to speak up about anything. And tithing is you need a third, or there's 10%, 3 cents. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think the extreme in my personal perspective is, and something I've never had to deal with in my life, is it having to be measured. Like,
Yeah.
what did they measure it with, Kim?
Oh, just a ruler. He just used a tape measure.
Yeah, right. So there's never been a time where I've ever been weed whacking, mowing the grass, trimming the weeds, any of that, where it's been measured with a ruler, right?
Oh, yes. To me, that's just normal. It wasn't any big deal.
Right. And so I'm just saying that's a little bit of a really high expectation to put on a little kid.
It's hard to get that into my brain that there's anything wrong with the life I led up until 2020. The thought processes and everything I had, it's so hard for me. And that's kind of why I'm here, kind of saying it is hard to kind of figure out. And hearing someone like you say, okay, wait a second, it kind of helps me go, no, maybe that wasn't such a good thing. It's kind of a reality check.
Sometimes, and maybe as we go through this, I know that we can, think about like our grandkids, right? Is that something that you would ask your like, is that an expectation? No. Take him at that age, stage, and now looking at him, can you see how obscene of an expectation that would really truthfully be? And so, of course, you would feel about it, right? Isn't that what we were talking
all inside, and you just want this dad that he can't be, and you're just a kid.
And you don't understand why he can't. No. Why he can't.
Mm-mm. And you see him be different with the other children of my stepmother. And so
so that is something you mentioned, that he treated you differently because you were the only child that he had with your mom.
Yes.
And then did he have two with the other two?
With my stepmother, I have 5 siblings. There were 6, and one baby died. Okay. And so a very big family. I was 16 when my youngest sibling was born. So, but I don't, like I said, I moved when I was 14. So my sister was 2. Right. I wasn't even, they grew up without me, but I know them as children, and they don't know me at all. And that's the difference. And that's just being the oldest. It happens. You had mentioned your big Catholic families. I think a lot of those age things happen with that too. Yeah, I have one sister. We're 4 years apart. Then I have a brother. We are 14 years apart.
And then I have a little sister, and we are 23 years apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I definitely get and I also get the broken split family things,
Mhm.
so I understand that as well. Not to the same
And,
degree, but
there's my, I don't know what, we were driving back from a trip to, I can't remember where we were coming from, probably Utah. Yeah, we were coming from Blanding. So we're going over the mountains, and me and my younger brother were really having one, just picking on each other. My dad said he was going to turn over on the side of the road, and he did. And he took out 2 sleeping bags and a bunch of rope and tied us to the top of the station wagon. And we continued the rest of the hour down the mountain on top of the station wagon, which was all fine and fun till it started raining. Now, when I tell
in
that
your sleeping
story
bags,
in a sleeping bag,
were you strapped down?
yeah,
You're,
actually, it was so much fun. But if you
it
think
probably
about it,
was,
it's
but
just wrong. It's just
it's just
wrong.
not safe at any way.
But
Again, thinking of our grandchildren, would we do it?
but I understand my dad in so
Right.
many ways that I totally get it. And I was safe. I was totally tied in. It was not that I was just thrown up there. My dad
Right.
was not unsafe about certain things. And it's just, I have so many fond memories of things that just seem outlandish. But I don't know.
Well,
They're funny to me. I don't, it's,
that would be a blast, in all honesty. Like being in your sleeping bag, being strapped to the top of the station wagon, just watching the sky go by and the mountains. I mean, it would be pretty amazing. And I'm until it started raining, that wouldn't be amazing.
and then
But
later, like I wanted my mom's wedding album, him and hers, and he would openly in front of my stepmom and everybody say that he wanted to be buried with it. And I was just, I never understood why nobody stopped him from talking that way. And I finally did get their wedding album. Um, but when I was 40, I went through, he started telling everybody that he didn't think I was his kid. And then when I was 50 and out there visiting, some total strangers said, "Oh, it's so nice how well you guys are when you might not be related." So I went to Vernal and picked up a DNA test and went to my sister's house, told her what I was doing. And I have an audio tape of that experience. And it's pretty disturbing. But I am his child and can prove it. And he tried it with my sister saying, "Oh, I got one who can prove it and nobody else can," implying my stepmother did something she shouldn't. And we shut that down pretty quick because you don't get to do that
well,
twice.
so this is something that he's done. He's done to everyone, not just you. I mean, I'm not saying like you
He's
said,
done
it
it
was
to the girls, me and my sister. I
okay.
just discovered that there's a lot of things. So it's like a misogynistic, patriotic female kind of thing. I don't know. I have no idea. It's just beyond words. Um, he's batshit crazy. That's what we endearingly call him because there's no other word for it.
Okay, so what age were you when? Because I know that you went. Oh, let's see. Here's a little message from Jules Libberton, and I think
Oh, this is my sister.
you may know her.
Oh,
Nick,
that's what she got paid. See, she got paid a nickel a dandelion, but you had to have the root. See, I told you it wasn't just me, but it was only us
yeah,
girls,
right.
not
See,
the
and
boys. But I never knew that. Oh, we got a penny per fly. I was an excellent fly swatter.
a penny for a fly. I didn't get
Um,
paid for, but I'm just so a nickel for a dandelion, but it had to have the root. Which,
mhm.
see, to me, those are so.
I don't know.
It's tough. I understand I get the need for the root of the dandelion more than I understand the measurement of the grass, right? But because now I just pay some guy to cut the grass and I don't care. Like don't give a shit. Do you give that much of a shit about your lawn, Kim?
No, not at all.
Right? Like, I don't know. But back in the day, they did. And they can let dandelion, you had to have the root. Okay, so you guys, and then, so he was trying to say you and your sister both were not his at
Oh, at
some
one
point.
point, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
at
Hers was
different.
after me, and we shut it down. So she
Well, yeah,
wasn't
I
going to go
mean,
through what I did.
you were 4, right? You said.
I was 40 when he started saying that. So I'm a grown adult out on my own with grandchildren, and he started that one, which made my siblings start questioning and treating me differently.
Sure, because they all come from the same. That's the difficult thing, and that can be a whole different conversation in itself, really, because it's it's hard. Blended families are hard, and I think it's
Yeah.
also hard on the kids without really realizing they don't know what to think either
Oh, they heard
as
so many
children.
stories about my mom that they never should have heard. I mean, it's just, he demonized people in just this malicious but very tricky kind of. I would love to get his paperwork from when he got his psychology degree, because I swear to God, I'm a hypothetical situation in papers he turned in. I absolutely am sure when he got that bachelor's degree, some professor didn't know he was reading real life experimentation. I absolutely believe it.
On human behavior,
Yep.
which,
But
I mean,
I got to
you
sit
know,
up and watch MASH with him, and I learned about human relationships and dynamics during wartime as a 9 and 10-year-old. And because I'm the oldest, so I got to stay up a little later. And those were the perks. I got to have those kinds of experiences. And they didn't have that, not the way I did.
like yeah, there's truth to like being the oldest, right? You
Yeah.
do get some little things other that others don't. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's no doubt that you have love for your father,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that, yeah, um, I haven't, I haven't felt any kind of question in that in anything that we've talked about, even whether on here or behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You've expressed your love for your dad, so I don't want you to think that that's not coming across, because it is.
No, but I had to reconcile it. I wasn't always that way. I was discharged from the Marine Corps at 19 for inability to adjust to military stress due to a turbulent family history. It's in my paperwork. And
Now, can I ask you, how did they come up with that conclusion?
from the evaluations at the Navy Psychological Unit at Parris Island. I was taken out of my platoon a week before graduation. Um, I have no problem. What would happen is I passed everything, all my inspections. I was going into Marine Corps band. Had automatic promotions. I was just stoked about my life. And for some reason, I would get nervous about the sit-ups. And I could pass them. I do the flex arm hang, then you do the run, and then sit-ups. And the last lap of the 1.5 mile run, I'd have a bowel movement. And that happened, and figured it was a fluke. It happened at my second PFT, and it happened at my final PFT. And so they pulled me out to find out what was going on. And that was the end result. I could have stayed and joined the next unit because it passed everything, and they had a plan for me going forward. And I
Right.
decided to accept a discharge and go home. I decided it was not, but it set a stage for me to be a military spouse, that's for sure. And I was very
Yeah.
good at that. And so yes, there's all kinds of things that were somewhere set up in my head that I don't know why certain positions, certain activities would have certain reactions. And I
What do
still
you
don't
mean, like, as far when you say
like that,
position?
like having a bowel movement because I'm nervous about sit-ups. And I'm nervous about sit-ups because I'm in a position where somebody's holding my ankles in front of me. And so it's that type of position and equating it to a sexual position in my head. And it's just weirdness like that, because you have to avoid certain things, and there's certain things I didn't do in gym class, and and so I know that it's different
So
religious
can I ask you
things.
this?
Mm-hmm.
So how old were you at the, we're saying 19, you were
Mm-hmm.
doing,
I was
when you were going through this, and you
18.
were
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
18, 19,
Mm-hmm.
when you were going through this and you were thinking about the positions your body is going to be in
Mm-hmm.
to do the sit-ups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're feeling you've somehow put some type of sexualization on the sit-ups.
Yes.
Okay.
And I get so nervous about just being in that position. Like I said, I could pass it, I could do them, I had no problem with it.
But it
And
just made you so uncomfortable.
absolutely uncomfortable. I just, and having a female holding my ankles, it just produced all of these things that were, I don't know how or where they came from, but it was such an uncomfortable thing. It, and, and later I, was able to work through a lot of it with learning about the purity culture and the,
And how they
the
put all of that on from the very
all of,
beginning.
because I never learned about sex until I was 14, 15, when I moved to Minnesota. I didn't know how babies were made. I never had a period. I didn't know girls were supposed to have them. And so, yeah, it's just kind of, you're not educated. You don't know anything. And then you're
Now,
behind the curve.
right, you're behind now.
Mm-hmm.
But now, let me ask you this. So you're feeling behind. I also want to ask you another question. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling behind, and so are you starting to are you starting to seek out some of that information on your own?
No, my mom asked me why I didn't ask for feminine items. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So she made a doctor appointment. I went to the doctor. The doctor thought my mom told me why I was there. She thought the doctor would explain it. And this is my mom in Minnesota. And they gave me pills to start my cycles. And then I started bleeding and freaked out and then learned about everything. so
Oh,
So it
wow.
was a total miscommunication until I was almost 16. And
And so
so
then who talked to you about it then? Do you
my mom did, when she realized nobody told me, and explained it all, and it was all good.
Then she talked to you about it?
So, but yeah,
Now I
it's like,
know there was a time um that you that the custody was split between your parents. You were seeing parents a
yeah, the
lot of the time.
custody was interesting.
Can you explain it a little bit? Or like which
Yeah.
ages? Like were you with your mom and then flipped?
They had no real plan. There were no real parenting plans that you really had to have. I lived with my mom in the beginning, and my dad and married my stepmom in December of 67. So I was two, just turning three in January when they got married. And they moved to Fort Worth. And that's where my next sibling was born when I was 4. I didn't live in Fort Worth. I remember a visit, not positive. And then somehow they moved back to Colorado. So, see, there was a separation there.
Right.
And when they came back, then I was back and forth between both families, where I always had a bag with me because I never really knew who was picking me up from school. And so it was kind of I became a
So,
bag lady very young.
so like you never knew where you were going,
No,
essentially.
no.
So there wasn't much communication with you
Oh, no, 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 no. And
about
then,
what
when I
time.
turned 7, my stepfather said, "You guys are driving this child insane. You need to stop this." And then they decided I would live with my dad. And partly because of the church and because of, you know, I was a daddy's girl until I had my sister. And so I had a brief window where I was important. And then,
I'm sure you were.
oh, well, as important as I could be. But the cool part about it was then when I was 10, my mom was moving to Minnesota. Her and my stepfather, I guess, had gotten divorced and then remarried. And so they were
They
moving.
remarried each other.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that's cute.
He moved up to Minnesota where he was from, and then they reconciled, and she moved up and they remarried. And which was awesome because my younger brother, he always got to have his parents. And all my siblings have it, pretty much, except me.
Yeah.
And so here I am 10, and they're wanting me to kind of help with the decision and telling me to pray about it. And so I prayed and prayed.
What decision about where you're going to stay?
Where I'd like to. Do I want to go to Minnesota? What do I think
did you have
about
to
it?
say? That's
I
a lot of
had
pressure.
to. Yeah, and so I had to pray about it. And so I fasted and I prayed, and I never felt an answer. And it's the first time I never felt God answer me. And it was pretty heartbreaking because I couldn't decide. And the end decision was made for me, anyways, and I stayed with my dad. And that was not where I ended up needing to be. And so that's why when I was 10, everything shattered. God didn't answer me, and my mom was gone. I saw her once when I was 12 and saw her again when I was 14 and went to move with her. So it was the beginning of my father keeping me away from my mother, lying on the phone when she'd call saying I wasn't there. And I never got letters that she would mail, and my letters never made it to her. So it was a rough 4 years, very rough.
It sounds very rough. And not only that, okay, so your mom was living
in Minnesota.
And yep. Your dad was living
in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why there was the difficulty.
Remember, flying, long distance calls, things was different on communication.
Yeah,
there was no formal plan.
Yeah.
There was for me.
Right. So there was no formal plan, and so they didn't really do a plan. They didn't make a plan.
It made me feel like I was disposable, no matter where I was. I didn't fit in with my mother and stepfather who drank and smoked, and I had to constantly hear about things with my dad and stepmom, like when packages were sent and they'd smell like cigarettes. I mean, they're just one family really big, and we'd make our own Christmas presents and we did all these things. And then other family that has more material things. I'd have 30 presents at Christmas and my siblings would have like 5 or 6 because I had a second family, that aunts and uncles that loved me. Yeah. So I hated Christmas and love my birthday because that's mine. And it was hard. It was just different. My brothers, no parents stepped in and did anything to stop anything because I never told anybody that I'm being bullied by my little brothers who tell me, you love the other brother better. Why don't you go live with him? And they're 3 and 4 years younger than me. That's normal. But it ended up just making me just crazy because I wanted a whole new family. I wanted to go live with my Aunt Dolores and Uncle Jay. I didn't want any of the family I had. And
neither of the choices you had to choose from.
And there was a brief period of time that I did live with them for about 6 weeks.
With your aunt and uncle?
Yep. And Jay's passed, but he showed me everything a father really is. So I knew these things. I just didn't have it.
But so it kind of showed you what you were missing. Do you feel like at that time?
Yeah, it was Christmas time, and it was hard. It was like the year before my mom moved. So she had moved when school let out that year. And it, yeah, it was hard. I
And
was
so then
9.
that's when you moved.
And no, I stayed with my dad. I didn't move. I
Right.
so but going back to a couple of things about my dad and like the type of jobs he's had.
Yeah.
Um, he's he's been a fry cook. He did radio in the Navy, sorry, Air Force. What am I thinking? Did all kinds of things with communications and different stuff. Later, he headed up and created the noise control program for the state of Colorado in the 70s. And so I, as a small child, got to take $3,000-4,000 noise meters to school and teach kids and play with them, and we'd see how quiet we can talk and what decibel things were. And that's a good perk. I mean, to be trusted with something like that. And one time I Googled his name and there's a Getty picture of him with that meter that I took to school. And so one of these days I'll pay the $45 and buy one of them because it's just cool. But one of the perks of that was the noise sign. Oh, what he would do is we'd have a police officer and he'd sit with a noise meter and have it all set up. And if they were too loud, they'd get ticketed. My job was to count the cars, not the trucks, not the motorcycles. I had to count the cars that went around the corner of Federal and Bellevue in Englewood, Colorado. And like I said, child labor laws don't exist in my family. So
yeah, right.
I would sit there in the van with him and I'd count all those cars. And later it might be the trucks we were evaluating, and whatever data he needed, it was my job to get that variable. And so I learned all these cool things. Right. And then the best assignment was he had to come up with a sign to put on the street. And so the boys were really good at stick figures, so they drew the little stick man. And then I came up with the little decibel things outside of it. And then later it was accepted and they started showing up all over. And so part of my childhood is being part of creating something that still exists. And it's kind of cool that
I think that's really awesome.
And it was all of us kids, not just me. You know, it was my sister wasn't born yet, so she wasn't part of it.
But the rest of you kids were part of it. Mm-hmm. And this is something kind of, I'm thinking of this, right? And this is something groundbreaking that your dad is doing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's doing this.
Part of the reason your concerts can't be super loud is people like him that made it happen.
Made it decibel.
So, and then later he went into asbestos after Reagan took over and there were changes in EPA, and he moved and was doing it in New Mexico and then moved to Utah and started asbestos abatement. And I think that's pretty much what he did until he quit working. So I did asbestos bonding work when I was 19 for Kears Inc. in Lordsburg, New Mexico. He got me that job.
What you were doing? What?
School systems back then that had asbestos every 10 years did bonding. So summertime, a crew would come in and we'd put poly from floor to ceiling, every room, gymnasium. Then a team would come in and spray the bonding agent. And then we would take everything down. And that I was part of the take up and tear down crew.
Right.
And so that was what I did for the school system in Lordsburg and Farmington, New Mexico, the summer when I was 19.
Okay, so now you're 19 and this was...
And that's what he did. And I'm just saying that's the type of jobs he did. He'd go in and actually remove asbestos for condemned buildings or buildings being demolished. And he was kind of a hoarder and he collected a lot of stuff from all of that. And he's that neighbor that has all the stuff in the yard that you wish would be torn down and taken away.
Oh, okay.
Spiral staircase on the outside of the house. It never made it anywhere else.
outside. It was just waiting for a home.
Oh, for him to figure out what he was going to do with it.
Yeah.
He had a
So
lot of projects.
he had a lot of projects, but it sounds like, I don't know, he was into some like different. It was a different bunch of things.
I think he liked to keep people safe. I think a lot of the stuff he did, he had a concern about people's safety. I was always, I'm a safety first girl, and that was, he always shoulders back, taught me how to walk, taught me how to, and I see that in other things. It's that, and I think part of the mind games and everything were part of his way to try and make me safer or something. I'm not sure, but it's the best I can do when you're dealing with someone that's not quite beyond kilter.
Yeah. Well, it's also difficult not knowing what he was given. That's one of the
Mm-mm.
reasons, like, I was kind of asking you before. That's something I always like to talk about or ask people about is just, what did they get to be able to move to the next step to give you? You
Yeah.
know?
And that's why I think Julianne and my daughter have more stories and things about him when he was younger, because I don't think those were things he was willing to share with me. Yeah, I just think it's his own warped way of what he shares information with who. Each of us have different stories about same events. He's given all of us a different side of the same story because we've compared notes. But they're all true. They're just a slightly different perspective.
Isn't that interesting?
Enough to make you question. It's almost gaslighting, but it's not.
Yeah,
It's
because
really weird.
it's enough to make each of you question because none of
Mm-mm.
you all have the same truth.
No.
So nobody can back each other up. So it
Mm-mm.
is almost like a whole gaslighting of everybody, right? So that
Yes.
he can remain in control and nobody else knows.
The puppet master. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so sad that I find so much humor in it, but I think that's the only way now, as I'm ramping up for the middle of my life, to not let it bear me down, but at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, through this, find a way where I can see other people's viewpoint to go, no, 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 this is not, kind of seeing things that aren't right. Slowly
Yes.
making that connection.
Yes. And then processing each of those little things, I think, is also, something that, some things may be easy to look at and say, yeah, okay, that doesn't make sense. But some things maybe, why doesn't that make sense? You may have to question some of those things. And that's okay.
Yes. It's
You
be
know.
it's much better than me sitting in my own mind like I used to and word vomiting to my friends and family because I'm so and I don't have to be that anymore.
No. And I think that a lot of that gaslighting, a lot of that setting up, that gamey bullshit, I'm sorry, that's what I call it, happened in my family. I didn't care for it much, so I call it the gamey bullshit because that's what it is. It's like we're setting up this, that, or the other to make you fail, to make you feel like you have failed. And why? I don't
Well, to make you
understand.
dependent on them, to make you dependent on the man
Right.
is all I can think. I don't know. I'm hypothesizing, but I know that's the end result based on choices I made in relationships. Um, had strong connections to my dad, and then people that were not wanting me to have a relationship with him because they could see the things, and this I'm talking partners and husbands of mine, and
Right.
and me defending and not, yeah, me defending, and
Your
very
father.
much so. Mm-hmm.
Well, because
And
that's your father.
eh, I don't know,
Good
it's
or
so,
bad.
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing of it, I think, for a lot of us. Let's just go. For a lot of people, you know, if you think about it, like a dog, a pup, right? A dog. If you beat a dog, and like I hate to, I'm not trying to compare you to a dog,
Oh,
but
no, no, no.
if you beat a dog, it still is going to come back to you, right? It's still going to love you. It's still going to want your approval. And that is the same with humans and children, especially. We want the approval of our parents, and that's not a ridiculous ask. They are the ones that brought us into the world.
And some of them aren't capable of the emotional connection, and there's nothing you can do to make it happen.
No,
And
there's nothing you can, and you don't know as a child and
no,
going through it and going through these things that we've been talking about. You know, you don't know that they're not capable. You don't know anything other than you're not getting it, right?
Mhm. And you see others getting it. You see your brothers, your younger brothers getting it, and not you. So I wanted to be a boy, not because of the, like now where people feel they're in the wrong body. I wanted it because I saw the power that my brothers had that were younger than me, just because they're boys. So when I was 9 and 10, I wanted to be a boy, but only because that that's how you had power.
Okay, now I know we're going to talk about, and I don't even know if we're going to talk about it today. It might have to be our next talk. When
Mm-hmm.
we talk about you actually getting baptized into the
Yeah.
LDS.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to, because you're mentioning some of these behaviors, you know, of the little misogynistic behaviors. Um, and we haven't even gotten to the LDS part yet.
Yeah, that's just him. That's
That
not
was
him
just his
being in the church.
personality.
That's not him being my Sunday school teacher 3 years in a row. That's not all that. That's different.
Right. This is just, we haven't even gotten there yet.
Mm-mm.
And this is just his personality
Mm-hmm.
before we've even joined the church. Correct.
Well, no, he joined when I was 2. So
Okay.
so he converted when I was 2. So he was
Oh,
new in the church as well as me. And my stepmother has pioneer heritage, and we're very proud of a lot of that. So, and so he
and you
married.
also have, you have longevity,
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
you have long heritage.
yeah. I have different heritages, and with my Libberton and Burkhart families, and even with my Burn. I mean, there's just, I was blessed with step parents and parents that each in their own right have been amazing people, and at the same time, not so amazing people. But they were all very young at the time. And we've all grown and changed a lot in these 5 decades, almost 6 that I've been alive. And I can give them different graces as I hope they can give me now that we're adults.
Right. Well, you know, there are some times, and I know I've told other people, sometimes as adults, we have to look at ourselves, look at what we've overcome in our adult life, look at the kind of adults we are, whether that be parents, whether that be people in the community, whether that be people that uh, volunteer, whatever the case may be. I think sometimes we have to look at our parents as other people or other parents.
Mm,
And that's very difficult to do,
hard.
right?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do. But now that we're 50, say, you know, now that we're in our 50s and we're not looking at them.
You know, we did some stupid things when we were young, and we can,
Right, sure.
move on from it.
Right. We have to give them a little bit of grace once now that we know, right? We didn't know anything.
No.
And there's the whole age of perception thing where it's just whatever age you were when it happens to you, that's kind of what age it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're looking back at it, you're always 10 or 9, or
Yes.
you always see it through those same young eyes.
Age 10, there's
Yeah,
those 10, 19,
yeah,
92 are pivotal
right,
ages in my head. And I'm
right,
not even 92 yet, but I plan to be. And so,
right.
but it
Yeah,
is, there are certain things that just stick with you for some reason.
they do well because they hurt,
Oh,
they leave questions,
it broke
you
me.
know,
It broke
they
me.
they break us, and we don't have any explanation or understanding, and we're young.
Mhm.
So at that such young age, we're trying to process these crazy, abnormal, ridiculous uh, things that are being set up for self sabotage, which then makes you feel like you can't get anything freaking right. And there's somebody actually telling you, hey, you can't get anything freaking right.
And nobody
But,
believes you no matter who you say anything to. You're always the liar, no matter where you turn.
well,
And you give
unfortunately,
up. You just give up. You read books and you crochet and you try and keep your nose, you just try your best to keep both worlds happy. So, but yeah, we can definitely, check in with the chat and see what we need, and
okay, well, we don't have much chat going on, right? Everybody's been listening. We
awesome.
have, yeah, we just have Jules, Peggy, and Whitney in the chat. If anybody
Yay.
has any questions or anything, feel free to pop them up, you guys. Um, it's always so much, we get so much information, Kim, when we do
Yes,
these
I
talks.
know.
And, after we do the talk, whether, sometimes I go back and I look at my notes that I've taken, as we've talked.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that last night. And then I'm sure tonight I'll have a lot more too.
Yeah, it's just the little building blocks along the way. And it's all been part of my recovery to be this person willing to have an emerging identity of my own. Because I can understand where the falseness came in. And I now have what's real for me. And it's well earned and exciting. I'm not ashamed of any part of my life at all. Um, I
That makes me
understand it.
happy.
I understand it in a different way. But
Have there
anger's
been
hard. I don't do anger well. We're still working on that.
well, anger is one,
Most.
kind of, and this is just my opinion. I'm no professional, but I think anger is almost one that has to come with a little bit of love, and so those are the ones that kind of hurt and sting.
Mm.
Like those are the, in my opinion, the ones that are really angry, that leave the anger mark, that, okay, I'm still angry about it 35 years later. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just carrying it with me. I'm still pissed off about it. I haven't worked.
Might
We
need a
have those.
professional for that one.
Yeah. But yes, also, but then sometimes we can look at things and from, like we were talking about earlier, from 50-year-old eyes. Like, let me take off my 9-year-old glasses and let me
Mm-hmm.
try to look from my 50-year-old eyes and see if I can understand this at all. If not, no. And I know that you've done the EDMR, and that's something we can all maybe touch about later
Oh,
down the road
absolutely.
too. I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome. Okay, now I got to put my glasses back on so I can really see. But it is really a process, and it doesn't. I think, um, Kim, like a lot of things that you've gone through in life, and as long as you've been away from that and been free to be your own self and be figuring out your own self, even, it's going to take time to unwind some of these things and let them go. Unwind some of, there may be, it's almost like a crochet ball, Kim. It's like a crochet ball of your life. And we've picked up little, dust balls or little cars or little
Yeah.
broken this and that. And so we're just unwinding it and
Yeah.
getting it all out. Uh, but I think there's a lot of worthiness in there, and there's also a lot of worthiness in you. And I think that you've probably spent a lot of your life just constantly second guessing everything and
Mhm.
wondering if anything you do is right or okay.
I watch my life like it's a movie. I've gone, every therapist I ever went to, I would start with, I watch my life like it's a movie. You see a Hallmark commercial, it makes you cry, or you have something, that it's
Yeah, it
the
touches you.
music that it's designed to produce the emotion,
Yeah.
but it didn't have my own. And so have this, they diagnosed it as a dissociative personality disorder. But it really isn't. It's more an indoctrination and batshit crazy dad disorder. And
Well, it's
part,
almost indoctrinated disassociation
yes,
disorder.
nothing ever felt real. And breaking through a lot of that to have a reality. And that's been the change in the past probably 18 months, to actually feel a part of the world I'm in. And I never felt that. And this has been kind of cool to actually be present with life.
I love that. And I love that you're getting to see that ability. You're getting to start to see, hey, I can live I can live my life without judgment, and I don't have to
Yes.
give a shit, and I don't have to walk on eggshells
And other
anymore because
people
it's
don't
my life.
care. Other
Right.
people just don't care. They're worried
Well, and
about
that's
them and
that's the
talking
thing.
about you.
That's the thing. And sometimes I tell people that, I hate to tell I'll say that I hate to tell you, but people don't give a shit about you that much. Like
Don't
I
really
hate to
care.
break it to you. Most
But they
people
will
are so
talk. But they will talk.
sure they will talk, and I know that you come from, a small community. I came from a small community too. Uh, so I know how that is. But also the something else that I learned about from coming from a small community is everybody in the small community is human too.
Mm-hmm.
They just may not want to talk about it.
Yep.
That's all. That's the only thing. You are no everyone comes with challenges, right?
Yep.
Some people just keep their fence painted, picket fence white, so that you don't really look past the fence and know what's on the inside, right?
Yes. And that
So,
is a big part of the high demand organizations and religions. There's a lot of that, where it is nice and pretty, and it really isn't.
no, it's all about the presentation and how
Yeah.
it looks and or how it's presented. But if you peel any of that back, it's not as pretty.
No,
And
not
that's
always.
no, and that's what we're going to get into in
Yeah.
our next show. Now, I want to let's see. We have a little bit of comments. We have Jules. Jules, I love you. I love you jumping in, girl. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. She said that's the perfect analogy for her life. I love it. We're learning. We're learning. Hey, Seven
Oh,
Son. How
hi.
are you,
Oh,
honey?
hi.
I love to see Seven. Wherever I bump into him in the community, I'm always like, hey, how you
Oh,
doing?
I
Good to see you.
know. It's like today I was bopping around some different places, and it's like, whoa. I'm in and out of some JW and Seventh Day Adventist, and popped into a couple that were in rabbits, and
Yeah.
and so it's just kind of neat being a part of multiple communities and learning multiple kind of, because they're all different in how they communicate, and it's neat.
Yeah, it is different. I think that's the beautiful thing about YouTube, and I think that that's why, I watch so much YouTube. Now I have to turn off YouTube to turn my head off because I get so invested, and especially invested in learning.
Yep.
It's like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? Oh, let me hear this. I'm like in a rattle, so I have to like really say, hey, shut it off, and then get into my little zone out shows that I can watch on TV or a book, or or listening to something. Um,
It's definitely fun, though, at the same time. There's so much humor and interesting people I've gotten to know along the way. And it opened up the world to show me that it's big, it's worldwide. You're actually a huge world right there. And
right at your fingertips.
yeah, it just opened up information and opinions and ideas. And
Yes.
it's been fun. I like that.
Yes, and I have to say, really, Kim, I've probably known you. I mean, we don't know each other incredibly well, but we're getting
The
to know each
chats.
other. Right, but we've been seeing each other and chatty and saying hi and all of this stuff for probably about 18 months now. I mean, really, it's been quite a while.
Yep.
And I've seen your growth and you taking on different projects and you saying, "Hey, I want to do this and I'm doing this," and being proud of the things that you are doing in your life. And I love seeing that. I love seeing people succeed, and I love seeing them, even at whatever age or stage, realizing, "Hey, I can do this whole new thing."
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah, why not? And you should, and you should, and I will definitely be a cheerleader for you. So we're gonna meet again next Wednesday,
Wednesday.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So guys, we will be back, and I'll put it up. I'll do better.
Oh,
I'll
me
put
too.
them both up this week. And
I
so
totally forgot.
I know we were kind of, I don't know I was in my own place. But so next week it'll be the 7th and the 8th. And next week we're going to start,
Maybe do mom.
yeah, I think doing
Maybe.
mom would be an excellent idea.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can talk about your LDS
Yeah.
baptism.
Yep.
And, uh,
We'll
and
figure
we'll
it
learn
out.
about that too. So you guys,
Yeah. Just kind of ease
yeah.
into some of it. And oh, don't forget your YouTube housekeeping.
Oh yes, thank you. My YouTube housekeeping, and I didn't put it in. I didn't put it in my branding, but I can real quick. I think because I have all. Oh no, you know what I did? Okay, so listen. If you like this, put a like, please, or dislike, whichever. Subscribe if you're not subscribed because we're gonna do this series. It's gonna be fun. It's heavy. We're just taking our time, taking it slow. We're learning as we go, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I hope that you are, Kim.
Mm-hmm. I
And
am.
good, good, good. So we will be back here. And also, I have linked all of Kim's information in the information page on this video and yesterday's video. She is at RIO4LIFE on YouTube and Instagram, Twitter. Are you everywhere, right?
I'm not on Twitter or TikTok. I think
Okay, that's
Facebook is the biggie for me. Uh, and things just end up on Instagram. I'm not really there.
okay,
So
okay.
it's just YouTube and Facebook where I'm actually physically entertaining myself.
Okay. Well, me too. That's where I am too, pretty much. So we're in the same row. So you can find her at
Kim D Heye, Heye is Facebook.
this Facebook, and I'll put
Mhm.
that link in when we're done here. But her Buy Me a Coffee, her other links, any of those things to help her continue to build her office and build her journey, and I would see what's coming next with Kim. Check it out and go subscribe to her and check out her page.
Mhm.
Okay, and we will see you guys next Wednesday at 9 Central Time. Right?
Bye.
Bye bye, guys. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone.